Are we just starting from beginning?
Why would we do that?
Well, I don't know.
What purpose would that serve? Because that's what we did last time. I said we'd do it to show that I've made progress. Although it's been a while since I played this again. Oh, okay, no, it's definitely progress. I've got a large crew of level 6s. I thought I had actually lost several of them.
Who did we lose initially? What was our...
A bunch of people died
the first time. But I mean, who was our...
I got a free weapon upgrade. The problem is I think everybody's upgraded.
Dwarf-like cry out in the middle of the fight to encourage...
Let's see, free up weapons, except I have already upgraded everyone's weapons. Literally everyone's weapons. I got very absorbed into this after we started my second playthrough, and then I actually learned how to play it. So, oh, hey, free for you. Wait, hang on, I'm supposed to get a free thing. Is he too low to get a free thing? Or... Well, he needs free stuff anyways. Well, not free stuff, I'm paying for everything, it's not like it matters. The trouble I have with this game is that when you reach high levels, as I have, every expedition becomes much more potentially costly. Because if I lose a low-level person, that's like, okay, you know, I've got gaggles full of people I could just pull from at any time. But if I lose one of these high-level people, then I've got to spend, you know, weeks training them up new people to take over their position.
See, that was my favorite part of
and the dungeons only get harder, so it's like, it's not like, you know, just because these guys are well trained doesn't mean that it's a shoehorn that they're going to win.
A shoehorn?
Is that the right word? I don't think that's the right word.
A shoe-in.
That's what I meant.
You could use a shoehorn to make it easier. But if you gave them a shoehorn to go in with...
How much? Oh, I've got everything upgraded. I think what's left to upgrade? As I've said, I've done a lot of work. I think the church is...
No, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood had a very similar vibe to this. And this, honestly, this part of Assassin's Creed Brotherhood was my favorite. Because even though you did lose people, like when you would send them out on missions every now and then, having to build them up into the people that they become.
At all like the ship missions in Black Flag?
No, it's not.
Because those were so easy to game as long as you paid like the barest amount of attention.
No.
Because I was like, I never lost a single ship with that.
No, these ones actively you'd have to like, send your best of this or whatever. And there were times that it was like 60% chance they're going to win, but 40% chance they may all die. And it's kind of like, but you had to do it right then based on like the timing or whatever else. It was, and I found that fascinating because you go, are you going to take the risk or are you going to actually pass up the opportunity to take somebody out or whatever it may be? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I like this game a lot. It's just that it stresses me out. It's actually the same issue I have with Sunless
Brotherhood?
Sea. No. Oh. I don't own that. But
Sunless Sea, you had mentioned this.
I like it for the same reasons, because it's a similar style of game, except for the fact that in the late levels, because that's also a roguelike, if you die, you lose all the progress. And it's like, that means that it goes from, I'll put together a party and I'll send out something, to like, now I have to agonize over exactly who to send, and like, this guy's not in the right state, so even though he's high level, I gotta wait for him to get his head on. It's like, it becomes a great deal more stressful. I'm looking for busts.
Stressful or a bit...
None of these are busts. I need busts to upgrade my church.
Not monotonous, that's another
I also have to look... No, it's not monotonous. It's just like it becomes much more of a pressure. And that makes it's fun, but it means that you also have to be in the mood. I'm going to pull up my guide again.
The rhythm has to be right.
See, I used to have all this in my head, but then it's been a while. I go through stages is the point, where I'll be like, I'll play this for a bunch, and then I'll like fall out of it because it gets to be too much, and then I don't get back into it for a while. How to farm relics. Darkest dungeon. Because I was all in the metagaming and everything, like I had all the FAQs and everything too.
Huh.
Because it's definitely the kind of game where that's not a shameful thing to do, because it doesn't really tell you how to do it much.
I mean, I kind of appreciate that, though. I mean, if you think about older games that didn't give you any sort of explanation, it was just like, drop you here, good luck.
Where is it? Busts can be found in the ruins predominantly. Makes sense, of course.
Oh, were you being the?
Each area drops specific kinds of heirlooms more frequently. Like, obviously, there's the mission rewards, which are going to be randomized, but like the ruins, you obviously this is what you get for completing it. But as you scavenge around, you'll find stuff as well. Yep. So the ruins are where those are most likely found. But I don't want champions. I don't know. See, this is the thing. It's like I don't want to risk my champions.
I think the reason I liked both Brotherhood and these types of games is because I enjoy the kind of detail. Again, it's the whole detail side of things that I really just end up finding a great deal of resonance with.
So if I'm also most of the way through the various bosses of the game.
Huh.
So the ruins I've cleared out. Looks. So, well, this is part of the... Let's see if I can get the story up. That's not the story. Where's the story? Okay, come on. Here it is. Okay, I'm not finding here. Yeah, so it's like defeat the various... There's several mini-bosses, I guess you could say, for each area. So essentially, like this says, progress 50%. So once I build up more progress here, a boss will appear, and then one of the missions is to fight them. I've already done that for the ruins and for the cove. And so the only ones that remain... 16-pounder, that's in the woods. Formless flesh, I think, is in the warrens. Oh, and that's it. After that, these are all the darkest dungeon, which is, of course, the final thing there, which... I don't know. That seems like the kind of thing that's going to eat up people no matter how good they are. So the question is, do I do the ruins to get the busts, even though this won't progress the story at all? Or I could do this, which won't give me busts as much, except for this, I guess. But will progress the story. Well, okay, 1 medium for veterans, 3 busts is not a lot. Or I could also get my metagame on and use one of my... This character specifically exists to make loot drops better, but they're not very good in combat. So, yeah, I'm out of practice, so I'm having to remind myself. Trouble is, that's a high level thing, and these guys aren't very useful, so I don't want to send them all.
I just enjoy. I enjoy skilled trees of this kind of nature.
Well, that's the other reason I don't. I go through swings with this game because it's like there's a whole lot of strategy involved that will just pass out of your mind if you're not actively using it.
Yeah.
It's like I forget where she's most effective because party placement matters. So it's like who's going to lead the party. I believe she's usually pretty good. He's got some kind of ailment. He's got the plague. See, that's like, okay. I have to... That's not something that's going to go away either. Alright. Anyways.
He's got the mange. Well, you saw some movies without me.
It was odd to me that you cared, so perhaps you should explain why.
How about you?
I don't feel the need to explain why, because what do I owe you?
I'm just saying it reeks a bit of shame.
No, because I answered honestly. I didn't hide it. I just didn't broadcast it. Those are two different things.
I didn't lie, Dollface. I just omitted certain truths.
Tell me, did you expect me to think that you would want to see it? And then also, did you really think that you would have been able to?
Well, the former is certainly not... I think that if you would have asked me, I would have gone. Not because...
Not today, you wouldn't have.
Maybe not, but I'm just saying.
When did you expect to see it?
I don't know.
Hence why I didn't think it was all that.
I didn't like. Is your role kind of shifting about as far as hours and things of that nature?
I'm off today. And
yeah, but I mean, Fridays, is that a normal occurrence?
No, I'm taking my time off.
Oh, you're taking your vacation?
Yes. Did you think I just didn't go to work for no reason?
Well, no, I'm just saying, like...
I don't know who I should take. He's not great unless he's in the front. But I prefer this lady in the front. I need to have...
I don't know, this whole concept is just fascinating. I enjoy the kind of chess-ish, like...
Well, I do too. It's just that you've got to be... you got to stay in it. And if you ever let yourself fall out of it, I'm having to, like, remember of all... It's like, okay, this guy's good in the second position. He's a little bit over-leveled. And the problem is, I don't need this many people of this level. Because the low-level guys, you just send them out and it's like, grape shot. They're not... Half of them aren't going to come back and you just get used to that. But, like, at this level... If I send this guy along, despite he's over-leveled and he's close to leveling up again, which means if he levels up again, I won't have any of his class able to go on these missions. Because you can send a level 4 person on a level 3 mission, but if they're 2 levels above the mission, they won't, watch. They get real sniffy. So it's like he's like,
say I must be.
He's
what?
like,
I must be. I must be challenging myself.
So the problem is, if he levels up in this mission, he'll join the high ranks, which means he won't be able to do level 3 missions. And I don't think I have any of his class in the level 3 slots. So it actually becomes. I suppose what I should then do is see if I can have a low level person I can train up. I could take Dogman. He's the only one though. And that also means I got to make sure that they're all right in the right spots. Like, does any of his things that I want to use necessitate that he sit in the right place? Do the same for all of them. It's just this level of micromanaging is part of the chess-like fun.
Right.
But it is also quite demanding.
Well, demanding, sure.
And then I got to come into the trinkets, and I got to make sure they've all got the right kind of tools.
Does it collect it? Like, does it make it a conglomeration of like everybody's tools, or is it just?
Yes, this is all of everything.
Pocket.
As a matter of fact, I should. Where's my ability to recall trinkets? There we go. Unequip everything just to make sure. I thought I already had done that. So give her the bonus to dodging because she's not very useful otherwise. The question also is do I want to do a torchless run? Because if you go in the dark, you find more loot, but it's of course harder on your people. This is a higher level mission, so I don't exactly want to do that. But I don't know, fortune favors the bold, I guess, so I'm going to give her...
That's always mine.
Well, yeah, you think that, but then when everyone dies, you're like, well, I deserved it.
Well, then that's when you restart Oregon Trail. After all those years.
Maximum.
I actually about 7 years ago, revisited that, thinking, oh, surely now I understand more and I could actually do a better job.
About the very original or
I'm talking about
the
where it's just like
one?
you're chucking along and then all of a sudden it's like
the super pixel arty one?
Yeah, the one that's like really flat and 2D.
Because that one I don't find to be very difficult at all. That one had very little complexity. I grew up on the CD-ROM version, which was actually like 3D and very difficult. Because like in the other one, it's like, oh, you do a hunting game, and it's literally just you stand in a circle and shoot at animals if they come close. Whereas in the 3D one, it was actually like basically a hunting game, like a Cabela's thing, except the animals would actually attack you. They wouldn't just wander around. I forget what all trinkets I have.
So anyway, you went and secretly and
there was nothing secret about it. I said it when I was asked.
Cage-like, rather cagey. You went to see Barbie. So.
Yes, on the recommendation of. Well, we'll get into it. Oh no, it was of all people. It was the Lotus Eaters podcast again, who I watch a lot. And they had a review of it because, of course, they just do all kinds of cultural commentary, where they were essentially saying that it tries so hard to be woke that it actually reverses somehow and becomes a chilling indictment of modern feminism.
Well, but that's the whole point.
And I think no, I don't think it was the point.
It's
because
called
the film,
cruel irony.
It's like the film very much wants to be a message. And it becomes that message so hard that it actually becomes a parody of the message. And then it's like, now it's almost satire. Where it's like, you're actually communicating more in favor of the things you're opposing because of how over the top you went with this. The whole thing's a giant Freudian slip is the way I'd say it.
Yeah.
I don't know what I had some stuff that was good for shadow people. I like equipping I have a whole bunch of these dodge cloaks because they come very much in handy. Yeah, this guy too, a bunch of dodge related stuff because it essentially means that they can't get hit. She, of all people, I know has something, yeah, critical chance for torches below the right limit. I'm gonna boost her dodge as well if I can. Anyways, problem is,
so what were your
I'm not focusing enough on this, so if these people die, I'm blaming you.
What were your actual thoughts about it? Like outside of...
I went. I mean, obviously, I went in with that sort of frame of reference, so perhaps that colored my expectation. But even so, I think it's a very valid interpretation. Like it certainly is not a stretch. The thing is, I'll start with the boring commentary. It's actually quite clever in its. I don't know what you'd say. Cinematically, it's actually very well done in terms of the way, because essentially all of the sets are just like giant human-sized Barbie play things.
Right.
So it's well done on that aspect. It's like I actually have to applaud them for that. But that's technically speaking, it's actually pretty good and very clever. Like there's a lot of. Apparently, I saw someone who actually did a breakdown of the trailer before it came out, where it's like all of the outfits that both she and Ken and all the various alterations wear are like actual catalog items from the Barbie catalog. So it's like there's a great amount of detail into it, which again, props to them. I'm doing torchless runs, so I'm going to do it without that.
I just feel like there are other more important things in life to come down to than... I don't know.
What does that mean? I didn't want that. No, I don't want nearly that many. What is... You're going to have to qualify that statement. I don't know what you mean by it. I guess. I can't. I won't. I'm embarking, and these people are probably all going to die. Because I'm out of practice. Not only am I out of practice, I'm not going to be paying near as much attention as I should.
I think when you...
He's just saying...
I enjoy...
Well, no one's going to hear that, so he's just saying...
I enjoy this part of the gameplay.
Boy, I got 100% of room battle, which means I got to go this way.
Would hope that my...
And here comes the fun. Oh, no, all the way out. There we go. Okay, so if she picks stuff up, it's a guaranteed loot bonus.
Oh, that's interesting.
Well, that's her whole point. She is an antiquarian. She has very few combat skills. But she... like, if you use her to interact with things, except when party members do stupid things, this is the other thing that happens that I'm not paying much attention to, is they acquire these traits over their career because they've got PTSD or something. And that makes them act sometimes irrationally. But what's supposed to happen is if you use her to pick up stuff, she essentially guarantees a proper loot drop. I'm so going to get creamed because I'm not paying attention. This was a bad idea. Okay, I'm going to try to get my head straight.
Now, the important question, did you in secret also incognito see Oppenheimer without me?
Should I?
Be honest.
Do you want the answer to this?
I do, because I already know the answer to this.
How do you know the answer to this?
Because I know you well enough to know that if you're Bobbenheimering it, then you're going to.
So you have heard the jokes of that.
Well, of course I have, but I'm a little...
Also, that was not how it was pronounced. I don't know who Bob is. You told me that you weren't going to go, so I was like, well, that seems to be blanket permission then.
Okay.
Because you wouldn't have gone if I had invited you, it sounded like.
I
cannot get her. This buffs everyone's dodge.
That I'm less curious about because I actually don't want to hear your opinion at all right now about that.
My opinion is that it's great.
Well, that's not surprising. I'm just saying I don't want to hear.
Well, I
don't want to divulge.
Certainly not. I know that much. It is great, though.
But yeah, what a surprise there. I mean, Christopher Nolan is not one to be.
Hack him up. Okay, maybe I'm not gonna die horribly. How did she get stunned? I missed that.
She's just back there like.
Okay, this guy's bad. I'm definitely not going to be making use of buffs and like
redound your entire.
I'm not redounding to their analysis. I was actually curious about it because of I mean, there were people. The whole Barbenheimer thing became a joke.
Yeah.
And so I was sort of like, I had initially, admittedly, written the film off as like it's dumb just on the face of it, and so I'm not going to bother. And then there were a bunch of people analyzing the trailers, and there was a big hubbub about like the fact that they're coming out on the same day. So someone broke down the trailer because they suggested that it was like, apparently the first trailer that was released was literally frame for frame a copy of the trailer for 2001, A Space Odyssey. And that was a bold enough thing to do that it got a lot of people's attention. It's like a corporate cash grab film probably wouldn't do that. So that got people wondering, and I was like, okay. I also had never known anything about this director, who apparently, because the reason people made the joke, I forget. If I can be bothered, I'll find a link to the video. But it was essentially someone made that there are an odd number of comparisons that can be made between the director of Barbie and between Christopher Nolan in terms of having won similar numbers of awards for similar categories of writing and directing.
Well,
apparently,
Christopher Nolan's fairly well decorated in.
I had never known that. Apparently, she formed her own production company with her husband, which Christopher Nolan has his own production company with his wife.
Well, what I find
it's like the parallels, and then there was analysis. I was like, okay, I'm in my film experimentation phase of life.
Maybe.
So I was like, I guess, I don't want to just... it would be reductive of me to say, because it is what it is, I'm going to completely ignore it.
I agree with that, and I'm not expecting... Like, I wasn't specifically poking fun of you for seeing it.
I don't have any holy water.
I find it interesting that politically, it is a shame that...
Politically?
The idea...
in terms of the messaging.
Yeah, because the messaging. Because she did intend the messaging, and in fact, initially, a lot of the response was like, hey, I can't believe this messaging is in such a very, well-done package or whatever else, and people were saying that. Well, then, the minute that the conservative right starts giving any sort of pushback against that, going, yeah, but you kind of defeated your own purpose about that.
What are you referencing specifically?
I'm just the idea of feminism as a whole, and the notion that there is as you said, it almost became so caricaturesque that it was like, okay, now you're just...
Well, but I think that's what makes it rather fascinating.
It didn't... Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was what they wanted to accomplish.
Well, I'm sure that they think they did, because there's definitely multiple levels of analysis. It's like the most basic...
There's people
the most basic
about it.
level
That's at the very
is...
least what's happened.
Well, I'm sure, but I'm saying on the most basic level... The uber female power boo men analysis still holds up, but it is definitely like it feels very surface level. It's like, I think if you were to take it at face value, I think it would be a much less interesting film. I think it is actually far more interesting for the sort of indictment of culture that it represents. Because essentially, do you care if I get into why?
Not for that movie.
Because effectively... Okay, this is going to be very difficult to try and describe while I'm also trying to not die. But effectively, the whole point of the film is that Barbie, like all of the fictional Barbie characters, such as the various interpretations of Barbie as like astronaut and lawyer and doctor, all of the various, like, these are all actual Barbies that exist in the fictional Barbie land is where they all come from, and they all exist there. And essentially where the interesting subtext starts to trickle in is from the fact that, like, all of the Kens are basically like a second class people. They exist for no other reason than because Barbies permit them to. Like, they don't have their own houses. They basically just wander around, like, interacting with... They only get attention if a Barbie like chooses to entertain them for the time being, and then they kick them out again. And so it's like, it really paints a very negative picture of, it's like, if this is your feminist utopia, it certainly has some skeletons in its closet. And so that level of, so essentially then the like original plain normal Barbie, which is the main Margot Robbie Barbie, things have gotten out of order. You've ruined things. She's almost dead. Okay. The problem is I can't. All right. I have to move you two around, which isn't great. I said I was going to die if I tried to explain it.
What I was getting at was, I think it's a shame that her motivations were
actually... Wow, that was fast.
Retroactively downplayed. It was like, this is such a great movie and it's political or whatever else. And then when...
What do you mean downplayed?
So...
I don't think it's downplayed at all.
No, not in the movie. What I'm saying, like, for instance, so Ben Shapiro actually got on at one point and was talking about the idea that
I have not watched his because I'm not entirely sure.
Oh, no, I don't care about his opinion of the movie. What I found interesting was he basically said, on a broader level sociologically, what's interesting is that the right starts going, we're a little not specifically fans of the messaging or whatever else. And when they do that, then he was talking about...
This is why I like the Lotus Eaters, is because they'll actually grab and be like...
He was talking about The View and the idea that he said, basically, it's interesting that the left then gets on this and swings to the opposite side and goes, this isn't a political movie, it's a movie about a doll. What do you... let's not make this... And I'm going, so now you're actually insulting the director because she was intending to do something that was effective.
This is why I like the... Lotus Eaters' take on it is because they're very much, they like embrace it. They're like, no, you made an accidentally conservative film and we're going to take it. We're not going to like comment on what you meant. We're going to take it for what clearly is, I think, having seen it now, like, yeah, it's definitely there. It's not a stretch to say that it like secretly became a pro traditionalist film. Despite the fact that that wasn't what it was intended. So I think that's a funny take on it. It's like that then defeats all of the political subtext. Just be like, no, you made a thing that we can grab, so we're going to grab it. We're not going to make a big fuss. We're in fact going to celebrate the unconscious message you put into this. But basically, yeah, it's an indictment of modern feminism because the Kens then Ken and Barbie have to go to the real world for plot reasons. Barbie realizes that most kids hate her nowadays because now Barbie is seen as like a tool of oppression for unfair feminine standards, and Ken is just like, hey, men here don't suck. And so he goes back and introduces, quote, the patriarchy to the Barbies, and what that really means is just the Kens having like their own stuff and having like a place in the fictional Barbie government.
When I'm not married, I want to have a house.
Yeah, so it's basically just like, oh, the Kens have rights. And that's far right, apparently.
Ken has had rights.
Okay, so my lady died, and I don't want to give up any of this stuff.
You're bereft.
Okay, these are two... Oh, sorry, so I need to keep this. I'm going to have to ditch some of this stuff. I knew this was going to happen. I mean, I didn't. I should have known is, I guess, what I should say. Okay, these are not very useful, so I need crests, and these things are more useful than just pure money. This is not going to go well. But and then that's just the first part of it, because the second half of the film is when it gets really quite dodgy. Because after the Kens basically, like, you could say, quote unquote, force themselves into government, which is democratic, by the way. Like, they don't actually become tyrannical. They just sort of are like, hey, we should have a place, and it's more of a civil rights thing. But because they seem to operate under the procedure that because they call it the patriarchy, that means that it must be bad. When in reality, it's like nothing that they're actually doing is bad. You're just calling it a name we all associate with being bad.
Right.
And that's why I think I like the kind of subversive take that's like, you can't just say that the thing is bad and then expect us to believe it. Because that's not how it works.
You have to demonstrate it's bad.
Yeah, it's like it actually has to be bad. You can't just say, yeah, we're going to take something that's on the surface actually not bad at all and give it a bad name, and then you're supposed to not like it. It's like anyone who thinks critically is going to be like, no, actually, the Barbies are kind of being really awful. Because they then, when Barbie gets back and is like, oh no, what have they done? They then stage like a counter-revolution, except the way that they do this is literally like there's a whole montage sequence in which they basically describe modern, like, I'm not sure what you'd call it, but it's essentially they say it's like, oh, here's how we're going to get power back is by basically fooling the Kens into thinking we care about them, and then we'll cheat on them to make them fight amongst each other so that they can, you know,
welcome to the
steal
lesson
the
in
vote.
Dark psychology.
No,
today,
literally, it's
boys.
like if you watch it, this is
It's
actually
very
if this was
Machiavellian.
oh no, if you fuck this, and if this was like men talking about how you can, it's essentially pickup culture.
Yeah.
Is what the women are doing, except in reverse, where it's like, oh, just make them think you like them and then exploit them, and it's like, and we're supposed to believe that this is positive. So it's one of those things where you're just like, I don't think you thought that deeply. I think you thought, yeah, we'll just have a bunch of this surface level feminist stuff, not realizing that you're creating a really dark depiction of what your societal goals are.
No, but it's the reality of what their societal goals are.
Well, that's part of it. But
that's the crazy thing.
Here's the funny thing: is that the film ends with the main Barbie, who did all of who fixed quote unquote Barbie Land, decides she's not going to stay, and she's going to go back to the real world, and she's going to become a mom. And so that's like
patriarchy.
Yeah, it's like really
trad wives.
A little bit. I'm surprised that you wouldn't have caught this. It does feel a little bit like, did you? It's hard to believe that you could have done this on accident.
I almost wonder whether she just secretly is a conservative. She's just playing it really close to the vest.
Well, but see that, I don't know. That's levels of chess I don't quite think are reasonable.
No, but all I'm saying is that what's funny is that what they want is not, and it really depicts and it makes clear reveals, I suppose, that their motivation is not, we don't want to be treated that way because we don't think anybody should be treated that way. It's like, we don't want to be on the bottom end. We want you guys to be on the receiving end of the trash. And it's like,
definitely definitely the nature of it.
And it's
and
like
so
that doesn't.
And that's one of those things where it's like, it seems like you're so bought into your narrative that you don't realize how unflattering this is to your own position.
Yeah.
Because you just think everyone, this is how it should be, and it's like only people who are already clued into your side of the aisle are going to think that, and anyone who was sort of in the middle is actually going to come across as like, I don't think I approve. I recommend, if you're at all curious, I'd recommend watching the Lotus Eaters, because they give a better breakdown than I can while I'm trying not to die. And they go into more depth because they're a little bit more, I don't know, they're rather, how do I heal myself? I thought the way that they broke it down was humorous and more in-depth and perhaps more insightful, I guess. But I do think that it's worth seeing, if only because of the odd cultural indictment that it represents. Because I think that's kind of what it is. It's like, okay, so you've essentially just laid bare what your ideal society looks like. And it's not as flattering as you think.
But see, they know it's not.
No, I don't think they do. I think they think everyone would think like this. And it's like, yeah, but everyone doesn't. And so it only makes your position look pretty suspect.
Yeah.
Because you were apparently so gung-ho about it that you didn't realize... Again, it's like it pushed the narrative so hard that it wrapped back around. Because the film literally, as it ends, it's like, oh, okay, the Kens may have, lost their attempt at gaining power, but then there is still the hint of like, oh, could we maybe have a little bit of representation? So it's like, okay, so this is literally just how the feminists think that how the civil rights movement went, or not like the women's rights, the third wave feminist thing. It's like they're essentially flipping the script and being like, oh, yes, of course, the Kens will slowly gain rights over time. And it's essentially just we're the mirror image of the real world. And it's like, that does not that's not as flattering as you think. But anyways, I have no apology for why I went to see it. I was merely curious, and then I was curious anyway, just because I had not heard of this director lady.
Yeah.
I had also been unaware of her political. Greta Gerwig is the name. I was not aware of any of her political stances. Okay, so now because I've got a missing party member, all my party orders messed up. I should probably back out, but that's not going to help because we only just started. Am I willing to lose any of these people? I mean, it's not exactly a matter of willingness, but it's... I don't think I'm going to manage to salvage this very well. She can't be at the front either. I'm probably just going to have to... I'm going to have to attempt to back out before anybody else dies. I already lost the... Oh, great. Now I got to deal with you. This was a mistake. I shouldn't have done this. Because it's not going to do anything of what I thought. It's not going to showcase, like, oh, look how far I've gotten. I mean, I've got high-level people, but it's not going to mean that I'm going to do
killing everybody off and starting at ground zero.
Yeah. Okay, let me out, please. It won't let me retreat for combat. It's supposed to let me. Okay, well, that's great. It's not going to let me out. I can't give nearly as good a rundown in this present predicament, but safe to say, I like that. I think that it definitely should be something that you don't just let pass as like, no, wait, just because you intended it this way doesn't mean that it has to be viewed that way. And there is a perfectly valid, if unintended, subversive meaning that I think you should just claim and be like, nope. You made... Because it definitely does... I do think that if you were to take it more on the face, you would definitely... Like, Ken... If you were to take the first level analysis, villain Ken doesn't come across as that villainous.
See, yeah, whereas the converse is...
Whereas hero Ken... comes across as a great deal more compelling. Like the sympathetic revolutionary. It's like, okay,
I was getting it
didn't expect that.
I was getting it more of the idea that when Barbie plays the role of the I'm going to be in charge now, things get a little dicey.
Oh boy, breaking rating party. That's lots of fun.
People are
plot quest.
He's a part of the patriarchy. He thinks only men can lead. Well... It's not that, but
well, no. I mean, there's an
it kind of is that.
The argument to be made that like, and here's the thing: there was a bit of cleverness in the idea that like Mattel as the corporation is aware that Barbie Land exists, and like they're not actually manufacturing toys. The toys just appear based on whatever the Barbies are doing, and they're just selling them. So when the Kens take over, all of the Ken-related Barbie merchandise starts to like explode and become really popular. And like they start making lots of money off of it. So it's like not only
CEO Ken, he's coming in.
It's like not only does Barbie Land get
some checks.
Well, I would say it gets better, depending on if they want you to think that it doesn't, but it's like okay, so the Kens took over and things kind of everyone was happy, and then not only that, but in the real world, the stuff actually was getting sold because that implies that it's like almost as if people want positive masculine role models. Because essentially, like his version of he comes to the real world and like sees, the Rocky movies and a bunch of like famous. There's a whole montage. It's like, or even simple things like, oh, gym guys working out and being friends. Because of course, in the original sense, the Kens are all fighting for attention from Barbies, so none of them are friends. So he goes to the real world and it's like, oh, we could all be friends. And so basically they just come back and it turns...
We don't all look alike. We don't all act alike.
I just think that
individuality.
It's definitely something that's like an interesting cultural reflection is, I guess, the best way.
Do you feel like it will help you to have any useful conversations in the future?
Oh, certainly not in that regard, but I don't know that most films would.
Well, that's true. I'm just saying, like, is it something where you'd go, see, just like they did in this, and have it be... Because it's a bit like... you can tell somebody till you're blue in the face. It's more effective for you to
Well, I think depending on how much of the Kool-Aid you've drunk, it may actually disabuse you of some notions that you hold.
Well, but that's my point. It's
I think unless you're really
how
far gone,
you are down the rabbit hole.
Unless you're really far gone, I think it actually does pose a bit of a like, hang on a minute.
How far do you want to go with this?
Like, is this what we come across as? Because one of the guys described...
Mother ape!
One of the guys described, he was like, yeah, I saw it with my, like, normal, I guess, quote-unquote, conservative lady friend. I don't know what their status was, but he was like, I saw it with her, and she was like, this is a really sad depiction of being a woman, and it's not very flattering, and I don't like it.
I find it ironic, though.
So it's like, well...
I'm just going to say this because it's true, so if you take issue with it...
I don't know what
you're just proving my point.
Wow.
Which is that I feel that men take a lot more... I mean, in true fashion, men tend to take a lot more abuse and just kind of take it on the chin and keep on trucking.
Well, the film definitely makes that point.
And it's a bit like the minute that then men go, oh, we're playing that game, are we? And we respond at all, then the other... when the roles are reversed, it's like, but you can't act that way, and it's like, okay.
I should probably stick with an easy mission, so
it's a bit
get murdered.
I don't know. It does get bothersome.
Well,
it's irksome.
I would say, even on a surface level analysis, the film does seem to end with a somewhat. If you're not analyzing it deeper on a cultural level, and you're simply taking the messages the film gives you, it still ends with a relatively like, red pill movement, where basically they're like, oh, all the Kens shouldn't base their opinions of themselves off of what Barbie thinks. You should, think for yourselves and develop your own personalities. So it's like, okay, this sounds an awful lot like what a lot of the MGTOW guys are talking about. Is that really the audience you want to support?
Yeah, exactly.
Because ostensibly you wouldn't be in support of their things. And yeah, that's the kind of weird thing is it's like, okay, so it seems as though the pro-feminists and the pro-men could see this film and take the wrong message from it. Or at least what I view as the culturally inferior message. But both are possible. And it's like the fact that dichotomy exists, even on the surface level.
Like, thing that would
you have to go
fascinate
beneath
me
that
is,
to get to what I think is the more culturally relevant level.
The thing that would fascinate me is on a sociological level, what causes people to make one interpretation over the other.
A Freudian. I think it's a Freudian thing.
Sure, but what you're kind of getting at there is a bit of the they defeated their own purpose thing. What I'm saying is,
oh, never mind. This
what
is a
I'm
level
saying
one mission.
is
I thought it was a level.
The idea of
these are both totally untested.
Certain truths are so self-evident that it's like, yeah, you're just kind of arguing nature here at this point.
Yeah, it's not even that. It's just
it kind of is, though. For me, that's always what it's come down to. Again, Jordan Peterson makes this case in a lot of conversations that he's had with feminists, which is basically like, it's not that you can't, but the bottom line is when push comes to shove, you don't want to.
Well, that's ultimate. I mean, that does at the end. The fact that at the end of the film, it's like, oh, despite upholding the feminist narrative, I don't want it. It's like that's a really weird thing to
fight for you. By now,
I'm gonna reinstate.
I'm gonna go stand over there with them.
Woman focus, except not for me. Y'all can do it, but I'm gonna leave. It's on a technical level. I think it was actually very cleverly done. On a narrative level, I don't think it quite knew what it was going for because of the fact that it has so many conflicting sub-narratives within it, which is sort of what makes it fascinating. So I would say, and what I would, again, this is agreement with their analysis, is actually the one target audience who probably shouldn't see this is children.
Sure.
Because it's actually not a terribly child appropriate. It's not like it's an adult film, but it's definitely like there's a lot more innuendo and language than you'd expect.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, it does when you
the language
like
thing
the Lego movie.
Me
the Lego movie was obviously predominantly a child movie, but it also had exactly that was a film that was arguably probably for an adult audience, I would say, or like not like adult,
a mix, but like a parent audience.
Yeah. So it's like you can see it, and it's actually clever, and most of the humor is aimed at the adults because it's sort of witty and clever. But it's obviously appropriate enough for a family, whereas this is not that. This is clearly aimed at adults and not at children.
Click this into the computer and don't.
So it's definitely like, don't. I would say on that level, it's not great for kids either. But then their children probably wouldn't get the cultural subtext. In which case, they're gonna just take the on the face message, which I don't think is what the great.
Well, but this is what I was saying. I'm curious as to whether, like, what causes people to choose one interpretation or perspective.
Well, it's going to be what they go into it with, of course. I don't deny that my going into it with this expectation. But is it just a reinforcement,
or is it something that they'll actually have feminists going in, going, I really want to support this movie? They go in and go, I would say that doesn't work.
No, I think the thing is, I think it only works if you're really bought in. Like, I think only a turbo feminist would see this and be like, yep, I agree.
So the bottom line is, I think
if you were in the middle, it does actually present a bit of a... What it's going to do is
fully polarize, which actually helps
because it's a very mask-off...
Both sides to some degree.
It's a very mask-off film.
Sure.
It's like, on the surface level analysis, they're telling you, this is our ideal utopia. And it's like, to anyone who's not bought in, I think that would make you go, is it? That's certainly not what I thought it was. It certainly doesn't seem positive if this is what we're all working for.
Hand on the chin, just...
I don't want to do this again. I'm going to get creamed.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a level 1 mission. I'm still probably going to somehow.
So I'm glad you had yourself a little party, apparently.
I don't know what you expected me to do.
I expect you...
Did you expect me to say, hey, did you want to see this film that you probably didn't want to see? Because I don't think
after that, go home while I see another one.
No, what are you?
No, I was meaning the Oppenheimer deal.
It wasn't today.
Oh, that was a different. Did you just go the same night?
I went on Saturday. After everyone was like, "Yeah, we're not going to see it."
No, so it was just the next day. Then yes. I got you.
After it was a consensus, like, "Yeah, no, we're going to have to give it a pass." I'm like, I am not.
I could have gone, and Danica...
Well, you seemed rather like, oh, nope, it's not going to work. So I was like, well, fair enough. I was disappointed in its... Because I agree that it seems the things...
It's certainly unnecessary.
Yes.
We talked about the idea that even on a broad level, like, I can talk about that without even having seen the movie. I do think it's sad that...
Well, it's out of character for Christopher Nolan. It's referring, of course, to the fact that it was R for odd reasons.
Well, but it's not just that, though. It feels...
I do believe it's his only R-rated film at this point now.
It feels cumbersome to the actual story. It disconnected.
No, it's not cumbersome. Unnecessary, I would say, but it does... It's like, okay, it does at least make sense in context. So
what motivates that? Is it a desire for realism more than anything else?
I presume it's a reflection of his actual life.
Because there's times that I'm like, it's a bit like me watching the movie Airplanes when I was younger, and my dad was like...
It's not nearly of that level, so...
No, I'm just saying, like, you're sitting there going, this is a funny movie, and we're just all enjoying it, and all of a sudden, boobs across the screen for no reason. Like, it just literally did not make any sense at all. And I feel like it's true that culturally... We just salt in those types of things randomly, simply because.
Well, I won't deny that in most circumstances. I wouldn't necessarily say that's what this was.
It's a bit of the if you've seen the breakdown of both Matt Walsh and Ben Shapiro, their producers, who do the weird commercial breakdown where it's like, let's find out what this product is even selling by the time the commercial's ending, and half the time you're going, I don't have any idea, and then because it's just too, it's like a couple laying on the beach and passionate, necking, and then it's like, and it's a deodorant commercial. Interesting. It's
I think the state of modern marketing is something it's in its own miniature hell.
I thought you were gonna say league, and I was about to say, are you really even gonna call it that?
I don't know what I'm doing at this point.
Anything is better than sitting around in this dump.
I'll agree with you there, except for the fact that if you rush me, pal, I'm gonna send you in with a rabbit's foot and a pat on the butt. There you go, plus damage. You seem to like getting on with it. Leper guy, he's got at least some decent... Yeah, here you go. Have your bloody mask and your... Top
So-
chest and your lovely butt.
Anyway, that's
It's
interesting.
worth seeing if you are. Oh, well, I was going to come across as awfully patronizing. It's worth seeing if you're at all cognizant. If you're not susceptible to subliminal messaging. Oh, wait, are you not going to. Oh, why would you even let me. Okay, so I accidentally grabbed the wrong guy.
Well,
He's not
but
gonna
as
play.
we previously identified, it's actually, even if you are susceptible to subliminal messaging, the reality is, if you are in the middle or
I'm
like neither hot
well,
or
but that's-
cold
I
about
would
the
say that
issue, you're probably going to end up
You're in
swaying
the middle,
more
you're
to
not
the
likely
conservative.
subliminal, though.
No, but my point is, if you're a conservative, or I mean a feminist that has tried to stay in the mid part of the fence on this for a long time,
Where you reckon those are at?
well, I'm just saying.
I've demonstrated my issue,
like
which is
genuine
that
historical feminist.
I don't have any low level. Like, this guy is a good guy to have as a leader, but I don't have any of them low enough a level to do this mission. And that leaves me in a hard place. I can have him, but he's way stressed out from having almost died. Oh, wait, her! She's diseased, but that's fine. We can make do with that.
I
the
think
Plague
that
Doctor
the
has an
people that
ability to
play,
cure
and
disease.
this has always been, I think, the case where the feminist movement has become a bit like the charismatic church, where it's so divided that it's like, no, I'm just saying it's so broadly divided that you're just going, what does feminism even mean anymore?
Well, that's a valid question.
You're going,
I'm
because
just
some
so-
feminists, it's the whole, that other chick that actually makes fun of it, just like, no, we don't hate men, and we don't want them all to go to just, basically go and get bent, kind of a thing. And then some other
Whoop.
feminists will come along and be like, no, that is what we want. It's like, you can't. I find it odd, though.
Okay, so that's
Is
not
there
an
any
option.
male equivalent?
Fight
Is
Club,
there
maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say. Like,
Actually,
is there-
I heard even the Lotus Eater said that the male equivalent of this is probably American Psycho, which tells you something.
Really?
Yes.
How did they
I
get
don't
there?
actually know because I have not seen that film, but I do know that Patrick Bateman is weirdly popular amongst the Fight Club type men, who it's like, yeah, we could ignore the fact that he's a serial killer because he's a pretty cool guy. It's like, okay, that seems like a deal breaker. Again, I haven't seen the film, so
Well,
I don't know what
there's
I
a
don't know
bit
what
of
that
that-
analysis is based off of.
There's a
They
bit
also
of that.
they also
that-
reference Starship Troopers.
I have not seen that.
Because essentially it's a similar deal where, I forget the name of the director, but he took the concept, because Starship Troopers was originally I forget who it was, one of the famous sci-fi authors. It was originally a book. And it was originally meant as a sort of libertarians in space concept. But he didn't read the book at all. And just was like, I'm going to make it about space fascists. And so he tries to paint men, like mankind rather, as like this negative fascist empire, sort of Warhammer-ish, despite the fact that they're fighting aliens that are trying to conquer Earths. And then he gives them like the superficial aesthetic of like Nazi uniforms, and like, again, he tries to make them look like, they're bad and they're fascists, and isn't that a problem? Save for the fact that the film essentially like is totally on their side because they're totally justified in what they're doing, trying to save humanity from aliens, despite the fact that they might be doing it in questionable uniforms. So they were like, it's essentially that, which is why we ought to claim it as being like, no, you put superficial characters or characteristics on top of a different set of, values, and you expect us to not like this simply because it looks on a surface level like fascist. It's like, well, since it's not fascist,
Well, but apparently,
we're going to accept it as it is, not as what you thought it was.
yeah, but that's
I'm being forced to do this because if I don't face this thing, it will destroy the town. I thought maybe this was just another mission I could do, like, whenever I wanted. So I'm sending out a bunch of my high-level people, probably to get slaughtered, who knows. I'll be really mad if that happens. And I'm going to blame you again.
wow.
Because I ain't gonna do very well on this. I'm gonna crank the healing. Where's all my healing stuff? Way up. And
so shifting gears slightly.
please
Speaking of, please do. Is that what you said? We talked a lot about when sequels are okay, when they're not, what makes a good sequel, all this other stuff. We recently, obviously, had watched Top Gun to prepare for Maverick because we were gonna.
I'm going to crank this girl's dodge so incredibly high.
Doge.
She's wearing 2 cloaks with plus 25 dodge total. So she will be, and she's already got high dodge just because of her character class.
Impenetrable.
So she's basically going to be completely unhittable, and I'm going to bank on that. I'm going to just crank everybody's dodge.
Crank that dodge.
Plus 25 melee skills.
So, what are your thoughts? Because I think we may differ slightly in this.
Oh, did you think it was worse than the first film?
No. I thought it was.
How are we going to differ?
I liked the first film though.
I didn't hate the first film either.
Everybody acted like it was like, the pacing was terrible.
Well, okay.
I'm like,
yes,
no.
Perhaps like you.
No, I didn't ever say the pacing was terrible.
You
what
said
I said
it on
was,
you. It's funny. You really ought to watch these recordings back because you just love to perjure yourself.
I don't know that I specifically.
You said the words. It's an '80s film, and therefore the pacing's very slow.
It's slow.
And I even argue not all '80s films
terrible.
have slow pacing.
Okay, here's what I mean by slow pacing wise, because I think I'm needing to clarify what I'm meaning by that. First of all, I'm not saying it's terrible. I said it was slow, maybe.
Well, you did say that.
Yeah, but
so you can't argue that you're now like in disagreement with everyone else.
No, what I'm saying is terrible is not what I would attribute to that feature.
I'm cranking everybody with dodge in the hope that that'll help.
I
don't think it will.
And I suppose I would posit that most people, when they say the pacing is slow, what they really mean is shots don't move around that often. They're not dynamic.
Yeah, but it's
like single shot,
I'm taking every ounce of every possible healing item.
He wants you to take it all from him.
Well, because this is, from what I gather, this is a fight. This is not a dungeon. Like, I'm facing some kind of a creature. So I want to be loaded up with all the stuff.
Anywho.
Oh boy.
But I did enjoy this movie more in the
crap, it is a dungeon.
Soundtrack
of it,
obviously, which is not surprising. Hans Zimmer being one of my favorite composers.
Well, I mean, that's almost an obvious point these days. It's hardly worth mentioning.
No, you've never acted like Hans Zimmer was a personal favorite of yours. I mean,
it doesn't even matter if he's a personal favorite of mine, because he's certainly a personal favorite of everyone.
I don't think that's true.
People have basically said he's definitely taken the torch that John Williams has passed on.
Maybe so.
And I don't think that that's unfair, but I'm just saying that's not an uncommon opinion.
I think that he has
to slaughter everyone.
I like the fact that his score tends to be very string heavy, just because that's my preference anyway. I just tend to find strings to be the most expressive of emotional content.
Okay, this is another one of those mistakes that you make when you ain't paying attention.
What did you do?
She can't use this ability unless she's not in the back, but I kind of need her in the back because these three all need to be in the positions they're in. So I just made another goof. And I thought this was a fight. This is more of a dungeon. I mean, there's... I got it, and it might not even be here. Because I've got 2 paths to take, and I'm not sure which is going to lead me to the right one. Thank goodness there's all the cloaks everyone's wearing. I'm going to hack your face.
So what were your thoughts on it? Just like initial thoughts, rating,
less
whatever.
Cheesy, because the first I will admit is cheesy. Which isn't a universal criticism. Like, cheesiness is not inherently bad, but I do tend to prefer less of it. I guess I have to be in the mood for cheesiness. So, that's what I would say more.
Is cheese kind of a given in the 80s, though?
No, I don't agree. Again, I would disagree.
Again? When have I said that?
No, I'm saying you seem to have the opinion that just films in the 80s were bad on their face. I didn't bring shovels.
That. When have I communicated this?
Well, you've never communicated it in so many words, but you have your opinions on many films from the 80s suggests that you just don't like films from the 80s. I didn't bring shovels, which is an oversight because for all I know we could.
Wasn't Rambo an 80s film?
Technically not. I believe it was technically late 70s.
See, I liked Rambo.
And I would call that a slow film.
Yeah, it was.
Okay,
but
so we're at least agreed that slow is not inherently bad.
I've never identified slow as inherently bad.
Okay, so I'm going to hope that I chose the right path on the first go, because if I have to use a shovel... No, I don't. I thought that was a blockade. Oh, he's not here. Whatever weird thing I'm fighting. It's not here. Oh, I hate you. I'm supposed to be the dodgy one. That's... Don't read into that. Okay. I need to...
Don't read into that.
I said I'm supposed to be the dodgy one.
Oh.
Okay, everybody's dodge cloaks are really paying off. I just wrapped everyone in bubble wrap, apparently. Oh boy, okay. Is everybody alright? Everyone's okay? I will say this. This is one, I wanted to make this point. The Toy Story films still do a better job at portraying Barbie and Ken. That much remains. I will, that's just to cap off that part of the discussion.
Sure.
I mean, that, yes. It seems like it would be an obvious point. I just felt it deserved saying.
Well, I mean, Toy Story, I feel like, of all films, had the best opportunity to do
Well,
so.
yes, given that it's the actual Barbie toys rather than a meta commentary on Barbie's existence.
Yeah. And what she feels and her motivations.
Yes, but so anyways.
Which is apparently to
There
be
we
a
go.
trad wife.
It certainly could be read that way.
So it would seem.
That's the other thing I think is just funny. It's like nothing would annoy the feminists more than to be like, you made a pro-man film. Sorry, I know you didn't think you did, but you kind of did. Turns out things are better when women are in charge. That's not quite what the film says. It just almost says that. There we go.
So,
this guy's the only guy in the party doing any work.
Wasn't he also the one that was kind of giving you trash for taking so long?
I think it was. I think it may have actually been.
So...
All right, so my pro-dodge strategy seems to have really worked, although I have yet to fight anything large and monstrous. I was under the impression it sounded as though there was an actual, beast. These are just guys. There may yet be a beast, but I haven't seen him.
So, anyway, any sort of specificity on what you enjoyed, didn't enjoy about the two?
I just think the fact that it's more grounded makes it more approachable for me. Because again, I have experience with 80s films, so cheesiness is not... What? You lied to me. The map's never done that. Okay. This isn't going to be as fast as I thought.
Well...
That's the first time they've ever pulled this on me. This is how we know I'm in the late game, so the game's just throwing all kinds of nonsense at me. Oh, great. I normally pack a bunch of shovels, but I didn't think I was going to need shovels. Because now this is going to hurt me every time I have to... Every time I have to clear rubble without a shovel, I get hurt, because naturally...
What are you gonna do with that rubble?
Whoa! This dude's just the king. I'm gonna give the hamlet to him when I'm done.
Pumping the roids.
Okay, well she's always pretty good too.
She's
all right. You got a lot to live up to, lady. Okay, she's living up to it very well.
I found that
I don't know that I have
I've said
specifics.
soundtrack, but I think is a huge and probably the most glaringly obvious thing.
Yeah, the first one had a very 80s soundtrack, and
well, it wasn't even just 80s. It was
kind of
the
one
repetitive.
note.
Yeah, it was the repetitive kind of single song or two song vibe. I also thought that the
punch a corpse.
The drama in it didn't feel trite.
The personal relationship stuff was very...
It felt very authentic in the second film.
Yes.
Like, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. He found an old girlfriend that they hadn't connected with in a while, and then they kind of have a thing and end up rekindling whatever. I'm going, okay, that makes more sense. Like, it's not just like...
I think the first film was just over and above a power fantasy. It was an adventure film for young men.
Maybe.
And I might even go so far as to say boys. Because it feels a bit of a boyish film.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying, okay, here's the thing. He's got a remarkably low... Oh, never mind. I thought it was like 25 health, but that's just his stash of stuff. Okay, Mark, I'm going to use some of my tactics. I'm going to use his first turn to buff. Oh, he's throwing bombs! Probably bad. Probably don't want to do that. Doesn't she have stuff? These do plus 40 damage against marked targets. See? And she can't throw them at people in the first row because I'm not thinking. This is the kind of lack of thought you get. Oh, okay, well. Never mind, that works. You can keep doing that. How much is that going to hurt me?
I don't know. Can you throw it?
Clearly not. I could switch places with this guy because he's got the higher health, but that feels like a waste of a turn. But if I lose her, that's a bigger problem, so... Okay, dokie. When's the bomb going to go off? Is this just going to turn into a game of whatever that game is? Oh, he calls backup. That's not cool. That's not cool at all, bro. Okay, he's bleeding. That's good. That's at least a status effect. Okay, he's... Alright, so he's got a whole... Time's up. What's going to happen? Oh! That was very painful. Okay, so I thought maybe he could have... I mean, I'm glad the healer didn't suffer that, but that was... Mark him for death again, because that's all you can do from back here. I didn't think clearly. I need to wait for Lady's turn. That's at least why I'm glad she had... Well, she's got the highest dodge, so I'm going to leave her with the bomb. I mean, I did that to the other guy. And of course that attack can't hit. This is why I don't... Well, okay, hang on. He's guarding him, so that means if I attack him, it'll hit him. Ha! Except I didn't do that much damage. Heal the boy! He's carrying everyone so far. Oh, that was not a lot. Oh, okay. Everybody else is dodging properly. I hope she dodges that. Because otherwise we're going to really be poorly beset. And anyway, she can't use her powerful attacks either.
No, I think that's true of the first film, that it's very boyish in that capacity. I think, again, just the drama felt more genuine and true to life in this one.
Yes. Probably just mature in a genuine sense, because it's, times have changed. I would say, films, dodge it please. She didn't dodge it at all. Okay. It might be the kind of thing that can't be dodged, so... No! Okay, so this, majorly sucks. Because he's just going to keep doing that. Okay, I need to at least get you out of the back, because I need you to actually have your abilities. This is the only thing that hurts. Although this is adding bleed every time, isn't it? Yeah, he's up to 8 damage per turn. This is still not going Oh, okay, that actually was great. She's almost back. Okay, the problem is I don't see any way I can avoid that. They're all just going to have to eat it. And that's a very bad stratagem, but it's the only one I got.
Well, I mean, if she can heal from the back consistently, then...
Yeah. The problem is, she shouldn't be in the front, because this is not where she's meant to be, but then that'll... If I use this ability, which puts her back in her original place, he'll be the one standing on the bomb, and he's got way too low of a health for that. Oh, wait, but she's... Okay, I can keep doing this. Hey! That's what I needed! He's down to 54, 8 damage per second, 36. This isn't hopeless, but I'm guessing someone's gonna be dead. Oh, thank goodness. Someone's probably gonna be dead by the end of this. Well, so long as she stays out of the fray, I guess she can just keep healing them. But of course, the closer they get to death, the more it starts to affect them. So
yeah.
I mean, okay. I think we have a chance. She, of course, has to get out of there. Which I'm sorry, pal. I need. Okay, how many rounds?
You've got to heal. Second.
Yes, but the problem is
second chair there.
I think I'm gonna take a risk because of the fact that I know, okay, this does almost twice the damage against the marked target, and this, oh, he's not marked anymore. Great. I could mark him, but that's going to waste a turn. I'm going to bank on the fact that I think the bomb takes longer to go off than I thought. Which means now I most definitely need to get her out of that position now, because I think it's going to blow up next turn. Oh boy, I need to heal her! Okay, come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. Oh, crap. Okay, no, she has to... Is it going to be the end of this turn? Because everybody else has already used their turns. And this could very well go off. Theoretically, it's not going to kill her instantly, which means she could also heal herself. But that's a risk. He's very close to death. I've got to take the risk because she's probably one of the few people who can actually kill him. And I bet you it's going to go off before I get a chance to move her, but that's just going to be the way it is, I guess. Maybe not, maybe not. Which of these has the highest damage? Please. Oh, come on. What's this going to do? 4 damage per turn. He's got 5, though. No! Is she not dead? Okay, well, she's not dead on an impact, which means she has the chance to heal so long as nobody attacks her. Because that could happen. Now, the question is this fight going to end when this guy's dead, or do I have to kill the rest of them? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Maybe they do. Oh, thank goodness. Ooh, boy. We all live. What kind of weird earwax candle? This is the worst. This is garbage. I don't need any of this.
This is garbage.
I didn't need any of this stuff.
This is...
Get me out of here.
Stupid.
Get me out. Well, she almost died, but she'll be okay.
So,
this is my real...
So what's the actual rating then for you as far as the second one?
I don't know. I don't trust myself with ratings anymore.
I don't trust... Why?
I find that the more I rate stuff, the more I'm like...
doubt. You're like, oh, a 3 may actually be the perfect balance.
No, it's not that. It's that I just think... Maybe it's... I feel like I'm in the middle of a weird SAT rut where I've answered C 4 times in a row and I'm starting to doubt that that's right. Because I have, in a lot of the films I have previously seen, have all been the same rating. And I'm starting to wonder is this right, or is this just becoming the default I'm choosing? So, also, I have come to accept the fact that I tend to go back and audit previous things just to be like, oh, I might like a thing in the moment, and then, 2 weeks later I'll be like, actually, I haven't given that a second thought since. So... that clearly must mean it didn't stick as hard. So I would give it a fairly positive, above a 3, not quite a 4. So I guess 3.5 is the only remaining. But I don't know if that will stick. We'll have to see. Well, we survived barely, and I actually think that was a quest event, wasn't it? Not?
That one is a little bit.
Repel the brigand incursion. Yeah. So. Well, I am not. Oh, good.
Yeah, no, for me...
We've reached the time limit, which means I don't have to sacrifice any more people.
For me, I do think it was
only
around the 3-ish mark. I think I probably would give it more than a 3 as well, but again, my rating system being slightly different, I don't know that I would quite give it a 4 as well.
No, I wouldn't.
I think mine is probably closer to a 4, but it would even so. I
would say on the overarching scale... Is it still a film that needed to exist? Because that's a consideration for a sequel. Is like, why did you make it? Because if it's more of the first, that tends to be a demerit in my eyes. Because unless it needs to be something, and I don't know that it had much of a message that needed to be said. Like, here's a story that needs to be told. It just sort of seemed
that's true.
Hey, it's been long enough. I at least respect that it was like 40 years. That should be the minimum, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Well, because then seeing all those
remakes, I think, shouldn't be made. I don't know if I could give a hard cutoff, but I'd say definitely it needs to be more than... No, I was going to say more than 20, but Disney's in the more than 20 range, and they're still making crap, so... Let's say... Well, even 30 might not be enough. What's the biggest gulf between the Disney remake that they have yet done, other than the ones they're about to do?
The biggest gulf? I don't know.
Because, I guess Cinderella was in the 50s, wasn't it? And that came out in 2016. But that was
Snow White? Oh, no, they haven't done Snow White. They haven't done Snow White yet. They're going to next. Cinderella is actually uniquely, I think, the only remake that was actually good. Maybe it was because it was within the time limit. So, Beauty and the Beast came out in the mid-'80s, and they made that in the late 2010s-ish. And that one was okay.
So that was, what, amazing. 10? So that was about 30 years. So I'd say it has to be more than 30 years at least.
More than 30 years.
Because Cinderella fell within more than 30 years, and it was good. And this, Top Gun, was more than 30 years. I don't know that Indiana Jones gets a pass, because they broke the mold by, there was one in the middle. If Indiana Jones 4 didn't exist, I'd say probably Indiana 5 would have. I feel like a lot of people
what
are
is this
holding.
For you speak of?
Well, exactly. I think a lot of people.
I think even Shia's like, I'm not in that movie.
I think a lot of people are being unfair towards the fifth film because the fourth film exists. And I'm
Agreed.
Like, that isn't fair to it. I mean, it's certainly. Don't get me wrong. I understand the position, but it isn't. I judge the film on its own merits.
Yeah.
I don't know. So 30-year minimum cutoff for making a. Well, I guess it was a sequel. It wasn't a remake. Disney's making remakes.
Yeah.
Well, but
I think their same rule.
But is it really? Because this is one of those sequels. It's like it's the first film again, just in a different time. I don't know.
This one, Top Gun, the second.
It's the same basic plot.
Not. Well, I mean, because of the fact that the military has those cyclical processes. They do.
Not of this caliber. This wouldn't happen.
100%.
No, this kind of thing would not happen.
Having people in multiple classes of multiple years come out and train Top Gun, 100% they would.
Except for the fact that they would. The mission and like
the mission
and him being an instructor. Yes. It's like this guy would have been dropped out immediately.
Well, that's very true. Yes.
Which they try to like hand wave, like, oh yes, he was the first time, and it's like, yeah, no, he never come back. Also, that I admit that there was also a party that's like, who is this fictional enemy we're fighting who has better planes than us? Because that's not the case. Like, sorry. Even if you were to argue...
Like, they've got better planes than us. Didn't we just go Mach 10 at the beginning of this movie?
Well, I don't know.
Wait, where's that plane? Go grab it and tell Maverick to drive that thing over there and light it up.
Well, because,
it's a bit like...
Because,
that's the red herring.
The only way that would even fictionally work was, like, if we pretended that, like, is this the Cold War era still? Like, because the first film was Russians.
Even so, again,
this film, yes, I agree. Russians don't have better planes even now.
No, I'm saying they gave that away because of the beginning scene. It's like,
yes, but
he's driving a freaking rocket.
But then beyond that, we have to assume it's some kind of a Middle Eastern nation based on just geopolitics of the day.
Sure.
And it's like, of all countries, they're not going to have better planes than us, primarily because they have our old planes. Unless, maybe it's a chilling indictment of the extraction from Afghanistan.
Well...
It's like they actually have our 5th generation planes. They're flying our stuff back at us.
Courteously provided by the President of the United States himself.
Well, I suppose if they wanted to take that argument, that's much more chilling. But yes, that I was like, okay, so that's a conceit that most people probably aren't even going to think about. They're just like, oh yeah, sure, it makes sense. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, it goes back to that whole to the Moriarty statement of the people don't really need a good and compelling reason for things as far as war. It's like they have an insatiable.
Well, that doesn't describe their technological development, though.
No, my point is like just the idea that people aren't going to ask questions. It's like, oh, they're at war with us and they have better stuff. Okay, seems like.
I don't know. It was good. It's just one of those things. I'm like, I'm not sure that it stood on its own well enough to be like. I feel like, again, it only exists as a better version of what the first film was. Because I do think it was better. More compelling, a little bit more grounded, better characterization and all that. But I still am not like, it's a message that we needed to hear in this day and age, because it doesn't really have much of a message, other than, I guess, time passes. Is that what we take away from it?
What someone needs to do is create a film that very clearly communicates that as much as the technological generation thinks they know a lot of stuff, they need to shut their trap sometimes.
Well, maybe that's that's what it was getting at.
Because I'm not one to say age automatically brings experience and therefore wisdom. I go, no, there are some adults that are way older than they ought to be, and they're complete idiots. Yeah. So
that's just life, isn't it?
But at the same time, I think that it is sad that there's been such a disconnect because of the technological age that caused this fracturing of hey, I'm going to pass these knowledge bits down to you, that the previous generation didn't really fight for that very hard, and then our generation certainly kicked that notion to the curb because it's much easier to be self-reliant.
I don't necessarily agree.
Well, maybe not easier. It's more...
If anything, we are less self-reliant. It's just easier to not be self-reliant. Other people, there's more of a safety
we
net.
don't have to submit, though. That's the difference. We don't... There's a tendency, I think, now to say, I don't need to submit to your experience or your knowledge because I'm going to go and find my own. And it's like, well, yeah, that's fine. But at the same time, if someone that's gone ahead of you is saying, hey, this is something you need to consider, you're going to be wise to consider it. Even if you don't agree with it by the end of it, at least consider it.
I suppose if you're judging it on purely action film, which is, I guess, what it would just be, sure, it's a fine action film. It's got interesting... I don't know that I've seen a airplane film. I mean, I guess that feels like a very generic way of putting it, but like, it's an action.
There's a whole series
an
on
action
the dog
film.
fights.
Really?
I'll have to send it to you. I think it was a BBC series, I want to say.
Well, was it like a docu-series?
Yeah,
that's
it was.
Slightly different.
Maybe it was History Channel.
Oh, well, yeah, but those were animated and they weren't good.
No. This one was like with like the actual war heroes.
Yes, they were recreations, and they were not. They obviously don't have footage of those days, so they were recreations. Obviously. And History Channel doesn't have that kind of money to just go flying actual planes around. I remember the History Channel dogfight series, and it was like animated, obviously, in ways that was like, okay, we're not here for the visuals.
Well, yeah.
So visually
even
compelling.
Just watching, I mean, in the same way
it's interesting to see, like the fact that they actually used real jet planes. It's like, that's impressive.
Well, I like the fact that, like, in the same manner that Band of Brothers uses actual interviews to kind of cap or start the various episodes.
I'm going to assume about the History Channel again.
No, Band of Brothers, the BBC.
Well, this film doesn't do that. So you're
but it has
what?
Oh, you're talking about Maverick doesn't do that?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that film doesn't do that. No, I was talking about the History Channel one, yeah, but
sure.
I just think the notion that there is still lessons to be learned and gleaned from the previous generation, whether or not they know everything in the same way that they used to, this kind of animosity that you find between, like, or I would say outright disrespect of going, oh yeah, you guys were so funny with your industriousness and you're just getting out in there and going, you know, life kind of sucks. It's like, okay, yeah, it does, but you also could learn a thing or two from somebody who tells you to just get up and get on. It's like, so I don't know. I think it's a bit of both.
Tom Cruise set his whole career up of doing his own stunts just so that when he got to this movie, he's like, now they have to teach me to fly a plane. It's like his whole reputation is, he's always done his own stunts, like every time. It's in his contract, I'm pretty sure. So it's like, I think he did that all the way up until now. He's like, 40 years from now, they're going to make Top Gun again. And if I have the reputation, they'll have to put me in an F-18. Anyways, I'm glad I only lost one person, so that's a sacrifice I can live with.